Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Crucial Call Center Strategies that Generate Maximum ROI. My name is Eliana Raggio, and I'll be your moderator today. And today's webinar is being presented by DealerOn. And for anyone who isn't familiar with DealerOn, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, and we're best known for our search engine optimization, our best-in-class customer service, and our award-winning websites. DealerOn was named the top-rated website provider by Driving Sales in 2011, 2012, and 2013, and DealerOn customers have been winners of the Digital Dealer Website Excellence Awards, highly coveted overall winner, and unprecedented 5 times in a row. Yeah, we're the only one who's done that. We're so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that we're the only company in the industry to offer a money-back lead guarantee program. So, does your website company guarantee you a 50% lift in leads? Well, then maybe you should check us out at dealeron.com. And we have a great show in store for you today. We're very pleased to have Bill Wittenmeyer as our presenter today. Bill Wittenmeyer currently serves as partner of eLead1, the leading automotive CRM and marketing provider in the industry, and a division of Data Software Services, LLC. In addition to the daily responsibilities of the sales division, Bill also handles all OEM relationships for the company and key accounts, such as Auto by Tel. Prior to joining eLead1 in 2002, Bill spent over 10 years in the automotive retail space, holding various positions in retail operations management with organizations such as the Coggin Automotive Group, a Florida-based Asbury automotive platform. Bill Wittenmeyer is currently active in several prominent automotive forums, speaking at several venues each year, and he was a finalist as a representative of eLead1 for the American Honda Premier Partner Award. Bill can be reached at billw@eleadcrm.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, don't worry, we'll respond by email later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of the webinar recording will also be emailed to you later today for your reference, and please feel free to share it with friends and colleagues. Hey, I also want to let you know, DealerOn is going to be at the upcoming Digital Dealer 16 in Atlantic City, May 6th through the 8th. So stop by booth 623. You're going to want to check out our new responsive website platform, Chameleon. You'll see what the future of dealer websites will look like. You'll learn why Google recommends that your dealership's website be built on a responsive platform. And you can check out the sexiest dealer websites you've ever seen. So if you're going to be a digital dealer next month, make sure you stop by booth 623. And while you're there, check out the future of dealership websites. Also, we're going to have some speaking sessions from 2 of our EVPs at DealerOn. You definitely don't want to miss them. And if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, well, DealerOn is here to help with an exclusive discount code that's going to still honor the early bird ticket price, which has already expired. Just use the discount code on the screen when you register. And guess what? Our good friends at eLead1 are giving away a fantastic prize today on the webinar. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a free 500-name Gold Digger call campaign. It's valued at $1,750, a great, great prize for your dealership. The Gold Digger live call campaign blends best-in-class eLead virtual BDC with the industry's most advanced data mining technology to strategically target positive equity on early trade-out opportunities. Now, you have to be on the live broadcast to win it, though. Just stay tuned for all the details after Bill's presentation, and you could be scoring this amazing prize today. And at the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to receive a short survey. So fill it out, because we're always looking for great feedback from our audience. Today, we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all the completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. So let's get started. Let's learn some crucial call center strategies that generate maximum ROI. Audience, I'd like to introduce you to Bill Wittenmeyer, who I like to call B-Dub. How you doing, B-Dub?
Doing great, Ileana. Thanks so much for having me, to you and the DealerOn crew, of course, and thank everybody for attending. I know how valuable everybody's time is, so I appreciate everybody sharing it and investing it with me for the next few minutes. And hopefully on the survey afterwards, you'll get a lucky winner, as you mentioned, for a Google Prize, and make sure they give good feedback. Even the negative stuff, we'll still award somebody when it says how bad I suck. So we're good to go there.
So I got to tell you, I always love having you on the show. You come out with some stuff that no one else really talks about. You know, how to get the most out of your CRM and these crucial call center strategies. I'm loving this. What are the kinds of things we're going to be learning about today?
We're going to talk about a couple of different things. I think we'll look at some of the myths next, and then we'll get into hopefully a couple of freebies that everybody can take back to the dealership and implement immediately. Even if they don't decide to go to an outsourced solution, something that they can do immediately to generate some ROI or try an additional thing. Worst case scenario, maybe we'll at least just give some people an opportunity to challenge their thinking today a little bit.
That sounds great. Where do we start?
Let's go. So first I'm going to apologize. Everybody knows I was in retail, and obviously after 10 years they figured out I wasn't any good. So that's why I'm a vendor now, so let's accept that. And I guess, Ileana, as they say, when you're not a very good vendor, you write a book next, so I guess that's what we'll do next. So
Really? Is that what you're going to do next?
Let's not waste anybody's time. I appreciate everybody joining in. Here's what we're going to talk about today. Maybe the myths of outsourcing or the supplementing of outbound, inbound phone activities, and what are the stereotypes that are around that, or the negatives that hold people back. We're going to look at smarter, more efficient communication tactics to win more business. How do we achieve unmatched results in lead generation appointments? How do we get that follow-up, and how do we maximize those opportunities in the long term? And of course, we'll open it up with any question and answers if anybody survives the oxygen thief that I am by the time we get done with this. So we're going to look at some stats here, and I know that I've said this a million times before, and I've stolen from Mark Twain. He said there are three kinds of lies. He said there are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics. So let's take a look at a few. Again, if it's too high, use the Joe Verdi theory, cut it in half. If it's too low, double it, etc. But this is an NADA average survey, and this is from 2012. What this really shows is the average 150-unit store spent $188,000 in total advertising, or the equivalent of $616 per unit sold. Now look, let's cut that in half. Let's say that your store is only $90,300 a car. What the perception is from a lot of dealers is that the leads that are generated continue to rise on the internet side, but whereas we're going to see it's actually calls that are outpacing in the largest growing segment, which is mobile shoppers, and we're going to discuss that in a little bit. Dealers spend thousands of dollars a month attempting to motivate customers to call the dealership, but they struggle with answering the phone. They don't have strict phone guidelines, they don't have control, and in a lot of cases that's one of the lowest areas that we see any type of actual logging, right? Every internet lead automatically gets logged in there, and that's an easy place. Service lane is another great place where 100% of the people that come through are going to get logged because you have to open an RO. But when you get to the showroom and when you get to the phone, there's still a lot of area for improvement there. So nothing frustrates a caller more than either being put on hold, having to leave a message, getting it bounced around to several different people. You go to a typical website nowadays, call a number or Google a dealership. You may call, and it's funny, you'll get passed all the way to the service department and you're trying to get to sales. It's a very frustrating experience. So I recommend everybody call in their dealership on a regular basis, test their own place out, and it's always fun to call your competition. Just make sure you do it from a block phone number and don't jack with them. That's bad karma. But you will get a different experience. It's amazing to see how many people either don't answer the phone or are not prepared. So for instance, when I was in retail, I tried a number of different things. And one of the things that I tried at one point was that I put the centralized phone up at the sales tower, and I thought, hey, this is a great idea. My managers are going to be able to monitor and be able to see who answers the call. They'll be able to log it. They'll be able to listen in. The salesperson who takes the call is going to have the manager right above them, so they're going to do their best job because they're being observed. It was a disaster, Ileana. Here's what ended up happening. The phone would ring. It was like the running of the bulls of Pamplona. There'd be like 7 salespeople running for the phone. By the time they picked it up, it'd be like, oh, thank you so much for calling the dealership. They were out of breath. They were sweating. It was a horrible experience. So obviously we changed that. My point is we have to continuously change things around to make sure that we don't have any opportunities when it comes to that. So let's take a look at some of the other measurements. When they don't get a good experience, what happens, or what are the things that are out there right now, right? So how many times have we heard this? Will someone please answer the phone? How many times, especially in service? Let me give you some stats based from Stuker. Stuker had a survey a few years ago that he called over 5,000 salespeople across the country, and here's some great stats, less than 20% of all sales consultants made any attempt to set a definite appointment. That's amazing. Less than 5% actually of all sales consultants made any attempt to identify themselves and have the customer write down whom they should be asking for at the dealership when they got there. So that means 90% of the people either A, didn't get the salesperson's name or didn't even have asked to write it down when they came in. And of course, what ends up happening in the dealership? Well, when they get there, somebody else takes the up, and then you have the kangaroo court because there's all these split deals and everything else. So it's amazing when that happens. Let's take a look at a couple other things, though. When dealerships choose to field their own incoming phone calls, whether it be in sales or service, here's a couple of the following results that you may find. Look, dealerships are busy. Incoming calls sometimes go unanswered. When salespeople do answer the phone, let's face it, they're not necessarily trained every day on how to handle strict phone skills or guidelines. What's amazing is they're very, very good at face-to-face selling. So the problem happens, most people are good face-to-face, do a terrible job on the phone, and vice versa, those who do a good job on the phone are usually terrible face-to-face. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes what we think we're good at, we're not. Sometimes what we are good at, we are. So just particularly make sure people are in the right position. Not always good at asking for an appointment. We looked at those stats already. Look, the caller is interested in a vehicle. The vehicle's gone. They don't necessarily offer a switch vehicle. Let's see what else. We've got caller information that's not taken or recorded in the CRM. That's huge for future follow-up. Or the information doesn't include 2 phone numbers or emails. I'll talk about that in a little bit. In a recent pilot with CallSource, we found that over 30% of inbound phone calls, the salesperson didn't even ask for the customer's name. So now you've got a combination of not giving the name of the customer down, writing it down, or B, even giving your name when they call in. So it's just really common mistakes. And then you look at service. Look, most service guys in the advisor land, they're not ready to sit there and take inbound phone calls. They're busy with customers already. And if you ask a service advisor, they're going to tell you they're completely different from sales. The reality is they're the exact same. The truth is they are just taking their ups in a different place. So there's a great opportunity in service when you look at either outsourcing those inbound phone calls or at least creating a BDC. How much outbound new business generations are really done by a service advisor or service department? They generally concentrate on the ones they already have or the incoming phone calls. So then we start talking about the outbound call center aspect of that. So let's look at a couple other stats as we move into some of the bonus pieces here. According to J.D. Power, the 2013 New Auto Shopper Survey, over 79% of new vehicle buyers use the internet to research the purchase. Ileana, that's a no-brainer, right? I think the other 20 or 21% just didn't understand the question or they were lying. So the reality is everybody's on the internet at some point trying to do research prior to getting or after getting to the dealership.
Oh, yeah.
That same survey reflected that 98% visit manufacturer sites of those 79, 83% visit dealer websites, of course, 80% visit third parties like Edmunds, KBB, Consumer Reports, or any of those other great tools that are going to give them a way to buy the car. But here's something that was really interesting. Only 7% in that survey use social media sites in the buying process. Think about that. Only 7% were using those social media sites. I'm going to address that in millennials here in just a second. Here's a great one. In a separate study, according to CallSource, 80% of customers still use the phone to contact dealerships, and with dealerships at a 7.8% call-to-appointment ratio, and 4.2% of those calls go unanswered. So scary thoughts when you start looking at that. There was one other prominent digital company that did a survey, and this is key. Mobile users generated 26 phone calls to every lead form submitted. 26 phone calls for every single email lead submitted. So a huge increase in the amount of phone calls that are being submitted by mobile shoppers versus the internet leads that are being submitted in. And I think that goes against a little bit of what people would expect in common sense. Last couple of stats, Google states 47% of all auto inquiries come from mobile sites currently, and of course that number is going to continue to rise drastically in 2014. They certainly predict over 50%. I think it'll continue to get higher. Here's a really interesting thing though. Baby boomers were the largest increase in mobile shopping trend last year according to Google, over 174% increase, which is huge compared to year over year. Look, everybody worries about the millennials. Your manufacturers are telling you got to change the way you do business. The millennials are coming. Look, ask my friend Jim Ziegler. He's going to tell you who cares about the millennials. They're in their parents' basement. They're 24 years old. They're playing Xbox. They could care less. They don't even have a job, let alone buying a car. I kind of disagree a little bit. I know where Jim's coming from, but I think eventually because they all came from our trophy generation and we're all fault to that, the parents will end up buying a car anyway. We're still going to have to kind of go into that area. I'll talk about that here in communication. So we see the majority of our dealers are seeing a higher logging in the internet, but a lot less in phone. How is that, right? If more dealers and retailers could turn a few more calls a week into appointments, they could certainly improve profits by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Buyers who pick up the phone, make a call, typically make a purchase within 3 to 5 days after that phone call. They're much further along the buying process at that point. They've been into the dealership. They've been on the sites. As Google stated, 24 touch points. Look, they've done the research. At that point, they're narrowing it down to where they can get the information and where they can get their car and where they can get it quickly. So that's a huge aspect. And Ileana, I think we've got a little toss over to you. I think we've got our first poll question.
Yes, we do. Audience, here is your first poll question. Now, you would have had to have been paying attention. He did actually mention the answer to this. But the question is, from mobile shoppers, what do you think is the ratio of phone calls to internet leads? Please select one of the following answers. Do you believe it's 35 phone calls to 1 internet lead? 26 phone calls to 1 internet lead, 18 phone calls to 1 internet lead, 13 phone calls to an internet lead, or 6 phone calls to every single internet lead? Once we get a majority of those votes, we'll close the poll and share the results. And for those audience members who are writing in, I do appreciate it. If you're checking out our Dealer On webinar today on an iPad, yeah, unfortunately, for some reason it won't let you vote by pushing on the radio button, but if you have the opportunity to actually select that radio button that you believe is the correct answer, please do so, so your vote can be heard. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And audience, thank you so much. Gosh, we have a great audience today, B-Dub. We got so many people voting. You guys are awesome. I'll give you another 5 seconds to get your votes in, and then we'll close this poll and share the results. Are you ready, Bill?
I'm always ready.
I know you are. All right, here we go. Audience, thank you so much. Let's close this poll and share the results with all of you. Okay, well, guess what? 49% of today's audience were listening to you, Bill, when you said it was 26 to 1. 26 phone calls to every one internet lead. That's correct, right? That's the right answer?
That is the right answer. The other 51% said, this guy sucks. Why are we on this? This is the worst. I can't wait to get to the survey.
Oh my gosh. Well, audience, thank you so much for playing along. We're going to have one more poll question coming your way in just a few minutes. We really appreciate you getting involved. And B-Dub, take it away.
All right, so now we looked at some of the pain. Let's talk about some of the solutions, either outsourcing or supplementing inside of your own dealership, whether it be a BDC or a couple of other freebies that I'll give you here as we go along. Look, make sure your BDC, if you have one, is a true business development center. I'm going to talk about data mining in an upcoming slide where we can help out your existing BDC if you have it. Most BDCs are really BFCs, which is a business follow-up center. What we really want to do is we want to develop business. The great thing is, even if you don't have a BDC, I'm going to give you a tip in a little bit where you can create one instantaneously today with the people that are already inside the store. I think it's going to be a surprise for you. So let's look at this. This is a dealership with sales and service that decided to do an inbound outsourcing in terms of calls. The biggest thing that we want to look at here is your appointment ratios. We saw an average dealership, of course, none of you guys are average, but average dealerships, it's 7.8% appointment to inbound call ratio. This store experienced 58 and a 68% depending on sales and service. You heard me mention earlier, service is one of the greatest and easiest ones to outsource immediately. Number one, the ROI is extremely large. Number two, the service advisors, this is not their specialty. They're busy in the lane doing active delivery, etc. Number three, all the customer is looking for is either information or to schedule an appointment. If they can get somebody on the phone, if they can get it done quickly, and you can have that handled in a professional manner, you can increase the number of ROs there because, look, what you want to do is maximize the percentage and the lift that's inside there. In a lot of cases, what happens inside stores, people stop taking calls at 4:30 or 5 o'clock because they're starting to deliver the cars. They don't want to take another one because it's too late. They don't want to work overtime, and the service department closes down. I say take them all, service the appointments. The worst thing to do is you can give them a loaner car, put their vehicle in the service, rock and roll from there. So let's also take a look at that 26% of all dealerships have inbound calls that go to the service department. So keep that in mind. You've got 75% that are going to sales, 26 are coming into the service department. In the service department, we can field informational calls, warm transfers back to the receptionist, the cashier, or you can schedule the appointments on an outsource. You're going to get better customer information. You're going to guarantee 100% customer login because you've got an outsource that's actually taking the call, logging that, and submitting it back to the dealership. You get immediate feedback to the dealership management, real time from third party. Look, the reality is nobody ever says I did a bad job to their boss. And third-party feedback is the most important thing that you can get. And that's why the survey at the end is so important here for this. But I've said this story a lot of times. I get on airplanes every week, every day. Typically, if you see me giving a presentation or inside a dealership, of course, I'm in a suit and tie. But as soon as that's over, I'm in Southern California look. I'm going to jeans, a T-shirt. The hair's going to be messed up. I'm probably not going to shave. I look like a two-bit bum. The good news is, because I fly so much, I'm actually fortunate enough that Delta puts me up in first class even without buying the ticket because I'm so cheap. Two things happen when I go up to get on that airplane. Number one, they ask me for my ticket to make sure that I'm supposed to be where I'm at. Number two, when I sit down, usually the person next to me is twice as old as I am. The first question they ask me, what do you do for a living? I always used to tell them I'm in the car business. Worst mistake I could ever make. For 4 hours from Atlanta to Orange County, they would tell me about the worst car deal they ever got. They'd ask me about what the greatest deal is out there, what are the rebates, how they got screwed on their trade. In essence, it was 4 hours of free advice and consultation. Guys, I'm coin operated. If you plug money into me, I work. So usually I learned a lesson. Now I get on the plane when they ask me what I do. I tell them I sell life insurance. Would you like to buy some? They shut up and I have peace for 4 hours. What's my point? The point is it's all about third-party feedback. People love to talk about the car business. They just don't want to talk about it directly to the salesperson all the time. If you don't believe me, test it out in your next party, at your next dinner. Even start talking to the person who's serving you. Ask them about the car business. They'll be happy to talk about it. They'll give you all the stories in the world. So back to a couple other things. Look, if you have a BDC, I'm going to give you a freebie here. Increase the ability to do the hybrid. If you have a BDC, you can increase the capacity at less cost by outsourcing that heavy lifting. A virtual BDC can do the heavy lifting and then pass that information directly on so then your customer can have that internal personal touch and you can reach back out. I hear all the time where dealerships say, oh, we've got unique customers, oh, we've got a unique customer base. It's just not true, guys. Right now, every single customer is the exact same. It's not the same as it was 10 years, 15 years ago. A customer buying a Toyota is also going to buy a Mercedes, is also going to buy a BMW. You can buy a BMW at 40 grand, a Toyota at 40 grand, and a Mercedes at 40 grand. There's a cross-section of hybrid customers now. They're all the same everywhere you go, and they all want to give feedback. So start with the easiest ROI, which is going to be the inbound for service appointment calls. It's certainly a lot less invasive to the store, which is a great area to start. So let's take a look at some other things, and let's give you some tidbits to take back. We're going to look at 3 different sections here of outsourcing outbound virtual solution. We've got unsold showroom opportunities, we've got database mining opportunities, and we've got internet lead opportunities and long term. So the first one we're looking at here is going to be unsold showroom, and the top is going to be a sample of a bunch of dealers. The bottom is the top 5 automotive group in the nation. Both of these are from the same month, which is just going to be 2 months ago this year. For the entire 30-day time period, you've got 40,000 names with 172,000 attempts made by the outbound call center, resulting in a 72% contact rate. I think the biggest thing to take a look at here is the capability of the heavy lifting, your salesperson versus your salesperson dialing in sales jail. By the way, anybody know what sales jail is? That's when you force your salespeople, when they come in at the same time every day, you send them up to a room and you say, go make your phone calls and your follow-up for the next hour before you go to the floor. That's sales jail. I'm going to talk about how getting a better work phone number, etc. Because what ends up happening here is they dial the same numbers at the same time every single day, and they get the same result, which is typically a voicemail to home number. So here's a freebie. A lot of times, every training you've ever gone out to, when you go to gather information, it's all about gathering a phone number. The problem is we've all been taught how to gather a phone number incorrectly. They teach us don't be obtrusive, be nice, don't invade their privacy. So we walk out professionally, we thank them, what brought you into the dealership, did you hear about our special, by the way, what's the best number I can get you at, I'm not going to bother you, or something along those lines. The problem is the customer gives us the best number they can't allow us to get them at, which is going to be the home number. They've already learned. They'll go home and scream through you on the voicemail. Here's a freebie to take back to your guys right now. What I recommend is you need 2 phone numbers, first of all. Second of all, you need work and sell. Those are no-brainers. But how do you get it? It's simple. You ask for it. Ask for it directly. Ask for the home number. Ask for the work number. Ask for the cell number. But do it in the order that works. Hey, what's your work number? Where can I get you at? Here's a little secret, guys. People hate working. They love to be disturbed during work to look busy. If you don't believe me, I know, it's amazing. And if you want to get people on the phone, call them at their job. And here's a couple other freebies. Here's when to call them. Call them between 10:30 and 11:30 in the morning. Call them between 1:30 and 3:30 in the afternoon. And if you have unluck there, call them at home after 6 o'clock. Those are guaranteed times to get people on the phone. Why? I'll tell you why. First of all, when people get into the store or get into their work, they're usually messing around. They got coffee, telling last night's stories. I know none of this happens at the dealership, but in the regular workplace, this is the way it works. But then later on, they want to look like they're working without working. They get on the phone, they could sit there and chat for hours. They'd be happy to talk to you. If you don't believe me, go back to the dealership, call a lot rodeo this afternoon. That's when you move all the cars around on the lot. I guarantee you'll have more salespeople on the phone than you had in 3 days if you do that, because they want to look busy. So call them at the work number, ask for it specifically, and always tag to get at least 2 phone numbers into the database. At 72%, we find that's with 1 phone number. If I get up to 2 phone numbers, I can take that contact percentage with an outbound virtual BDC solution over 86%. So that's almost 9 out of 10 people live on the phone that will actually go through the survey. Here's another interesting thing. We made over 59 million live calls last year. I will tell you there was less than a 2% rejection rate. There's a lot of you up there say, oh, I would never answer the phone. I would never do that. Of course you wouldn't. You're in the car business. The last time you bought a car was 10 years ago. So the reality is we don't necessarily know what consumers really think because we're immersed in it. We're inside the fishbowl. Less than 2% of the people actually reject it. Again, they love to give that third-party information. So vary your times, know when your great connection times are, as I told you earlier, and then, of course, if you don't get them, go after 6 o'clock and get them at home. They'll absolutely answer. So the bottom one is the top dealer group. Look at this number of attempts. If you look at making the 63,000 or the 172,000 dial attempts, we're talking about 473 dials a day, every day of the entire year, Saturdays, Sundays, holidays, etc. Always working, never on break, no HR issues, calls recorded, 72% contact, a good number ratio. It's all about heavy lifting. I'm going to tell you guys, this business is a numbers game. Even if you find the average outsourced call center to do the job for you, a blind squirrel will always get a nut. They're going to get more people on the phone, and they're going to get information for you. So you can also see, here's a critical thing before we move on. I want you to pay attention to this. If you look at the top category, it took an average of 5 attempts to reach that 72% contact ratio. 5 attempts. The reality is most salespeople, the people on this call, of course, excluded, but most salespeople will never make 5 attempts to a single customer before they get them on the phone. They typically give up around 2 or 3 because they're super ADD, they see something shiny, they move on, they're not great with that patience, and they don't have that organization, and they don't have that discipline. And it's not their fault, they're built that way, and we hire them that way because they're going to get told no a lot. So up to 5 attempts right now to get a 72% contact ratio going through that heavy lifting. Now, let's look at turning data into dollars. And here's what's key about doing database mining or doing a BDC database, as I talked about earlier. These are typical results that you should find out of database mining with outbound campaigns, whether you do it from an outsource or whether you do it internally. Now, remember, this is a cold call. It's usually based on customers that have not been in the store in the last 2 or 3 years on average, probably have had little contact with the store other than random letter or email or a thank you or a Christmas or a happy birthday. So keep that in mind. Your contact percentage is going to be a little bit less because your data is not as good the older it gets. But use custom scripts based on the equity mining or manufacturer's list. By the way, reach out to me. If you want to do this internally, happy to provide you with any scripts. We want to support you in any way if you decide not to outsource it to somebody else. We'll be happy to give you all the scripts in the world. Let us support you in that way. Just email me at the end of the program. Purely appointment-based campaigns, look, for the last 8 years, we've seen anything from a 7 to 10% appointment ratio with a 2 to 3% sold ratio. Look, versus the mail campaigns that you still do, less than a 1% show. You go and do a carpet bombing campaign, you do a certain zip code, 10,000 pieces, you do the 3-in-1 flashlight or the vacation giveaway for the 3-day cruise to the Bahamas, you get less than a 1% show rate. A good database mining campaign should get you between 7 and 10% appointment and then flow through to 2 to 3% sold ratio on that. Here's a couple of freebies on this. We recommend smaller campaigns. Dealers are typically Vikings. They find something that works, they keep sailing up the fjord over and over again, they rape and pillage the village, they burn it down, they take everything that's there, and then they go back one more time to see if it works again, then it sucks, and then they say, oh, the campaign sucked. The reality is, do a smaller campaign. You don't want to overload. Spread it out between the week and not the weekend. Your weekends already take care of themselves. Stop setting up campaigns for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Your Friday, Saturday, Sunday business is already there. So 2 freebies in that. Number 1, do a smaller campaign. Aim it towards 500 records or 500 people or less. Number 2, do it during the week, Monday through Thursday. Your Friday, Saturdays, and if you're a Sunday store, already take care of themselves. You want to increase the business during the week. Let your weekends take care of themselves. An average store is not going to be able to concentrate on more than 500 names in a campaign during a given week. Listen, here's another freebie. Always do dual-prong campaigns. What do I mean by that? Most people concentrate on sales campaigns because it feels good to sell cars. That's what we're here for. We recommend at least doing a dual campaign. A dual campaign should always have a service option. If you paid attention, and you heard me say earlier, a 7 to 10% appointment ratio, that means we know 90% of the people out there are going to say no. We bought that vehicle because we're going to keep it forever. You told me how great it's going to be, and it's going to last, and we're going to keep it. Your response at that point should be great, no problem. Most people tell us the exact same thing. By the way, this is all true, 90%. What we want to do, and I'm sure what you want to do, is if you're going to keep it well for a long term, you're probably going to want to keep it well maintained. Am I right? Great. Let's set you up for a service appointment. By the way, we have a service special. Come in today. We'll give you a free inspection. It's not always about giving away money, guys. It's just offering the opportunity. You got them on the phone. You're doing the campaign. Don't waste the opportunity. Always do a dual-prong opportunity there. Maybe even have another spiff out there. If it's getting into springtime, you can talk about a spring checkup on the vehicle, tires going into winter, windshield wipers going into winter, etc. You guys all very creative and you can come up with that. Just make sure that you do a dual campaign always. And conversely, hey, when you're doing a service campaign, make sure you're able to switch up to a trade-up scenario as well. A lot of these customers, in fact, 2% of every registration in every market is changing over every month. That means if you have 1,000 ROs running through your service lane, 20 of those people are buying a car on average somewhere, sometime, not necessarily with you. So if you do a service campaign, go in there and grab the opportunity to do a trade-up. Here's another freebie. Guys, you could do this immediately right now if you go into the store. Go grab the last 7 days of ROs from your service manager or service advisor and grab all the customer pay for the last 7 days. Already closed out, customers done, they've left. Maybe even keep it in a certain payment range. A good CRM will do that for you as well in a quick search. So maybe you save between $700 and $1,500. Create something with your sales managers. If you get them hooked into it, you'll offer to pay for that service that they did, bring the car in and trade. Here's the bonus. It sounds crazy. Call these people within 6 to 7 days based on those ROs. Tell them that you noticed that they had their vehicle in there. I'm happy to give you this script, by the way. Let them know that you've got an immediate need for that vehicle back in your inventory for immediate resale. Don't tell them you have somebody to buy it. Just tell them you have an immediate need. Tell them to bring it in immediately. Don't wash it, wax it, or buff it. You need to see it in its raw and natural state. And if you can make the numbers make sense and fit their budget, would they consider moving into something newer and maintenance-free? It's a very simple trade-up. We call it our power play. We've had this in play for the last 8 to 10 years. Extremely powerful in going after and getting great trade vehicles out of the service lane. And look, the reality is if they spent $700 or $1,500, you offer them as a discount on the vehicle to help them with the trade-up. You've already done the recon on the deal. Your dealership's already got the recon done. Now there's no surprise. This car is going to be frontline ready if it's already gone through there. Throw a little wash on it. It's ready to go. It's going to be on your stock plan. Great idea to do instantaneously. You don't have to hire anybody out to do that. You can do it immediately. Now, also, remember earlier I talked about if you don't have a BDC, what can you do? Here's a freebie. Go back and use F&I managers. They're the strongest people in the dealership. Just ask them. They sit back in the cave all day long like Al-Qaeda, waiting on people to bring them deals, no offense, and then they complain when you bring it back there and they tell you there's not enough leg. But look, the truth is, all kidding aside, they are great closers, they're great at their job, and they're great at creating relationships in a short period of time. Use them to do your BDC work. They're managers, they've got the title, they've got the time, they've got the authority, and they're great closers. This is a fantastic way to immediately get customers inside the store. And think about this, how much of your competition has their business managers or F&I managers calling them, offering them a trade-up on a vehicle? Typically, they're trying to pitch them a warranty or something else after the sale, or to bring them in and try to recontract. I did this in my own store. Works fantastic. So think about that. Go back, use your F&I. They're a great source of strong closers that you can immediately do a BDC with. If you do outsource on the database mining, and again on the top that's a large group, bottom is a big 3 manufacturer, you're going to see the appointment ratios 14, 16%, and appointment to good 7 to 9. We talked about that earlier, and of course the service opportunities. The great part about any of these things are whether you outsource or whether you do the tips that I've given you, you should be able to be first to market when these incentives hit. Manufacturers are constantly putting these incentives out. They're doing it on a daily basis. They're doing it midway through the month. The key is being first to market in your market to the customers with the right message at the right time. Or maybe you get to the end of the month, you need that last minute rush to push you over the edge in a surge. Great time is to do that database mining. Certainly outsourcing is a great piece, or you could take some of the tips that we've given you here. Hey, Ileana, I think I got something coming up for you. I think it's time for another poll question.
I love it. Audience, it's been a while since I've had a poll question for you, but you know what? We got one for you right here. So we want to know, on average, how many dialing attempts does it take to successfully make phone contact with a customer? Oh, you had to be listening really, really good for this one. So please select one of the following. Do you think it's 8 dialing attempts? Is it 5 dialing attempts? 3? 4, 9, 22? Well, whatever it is, we want to know. Write on in, have your vote be heard. Let's see if you can guess how many dialing attempts it takes to successfully make phone contact with a customer. And, man, our audience today is on top of it. They are all getting their votes in. You guys are awesome today. Love it. All right, Bill, I know you know the answer.
I know the answer. The answer is 5 attempts on
I didn't stop it yet. Okay, well, now I guess I'll stop it.
Yeah, I'm trying to give everybody a freebie because I know how bad the survey is going to be at the end of this deal. I gotta try to win over the audience, Ileana. Don't hurt me.
Well, I'll tell you what, 74% of today's audience, 74% know that they believe also it is 5 dialing attempts does successfully get you in touch with a customer. So thank you, audience, for voting. And Bill, I'll just throw it back over to you.
These guys are sharp, Ileana.
Yeah, they are.
Watch
I know.
out. So as we start to wrap, let's get to the third piece here, which is the internet follow-up. This is one of the most crucial areas in my personal opinion. What we're looking at here is a top 5 automotive dealer group, and this was based over a 6-month period, and actually a little bit longer than 6 months. And what we looked at was the total number of internet leads. Then we looked at the sold ratios in different aspects. So it might be hard to see, but I'm going to run through this pretty quickly. The group total in this time period for 1 month, 12,847 total internet leads. Now, here's what's interesting. 1,046 of those leads sold in the first 1 to 6 days throughout all their stores. Another 7 to 14 days, 830 sold, which amazingly enough, at that point, gave us a 14.6% lead close ratio in the first 14 days. That's typical. What we see is most of the closing ratios happen when you look at those averages nationally in the first 14 days. Why? We start to get a little anal retentive. We start to want to go back and deal on the fresh leads. The leads start to build up. There's still a much longer buying cycle here. What ended up happening as they went on is the fact that 306 sold later on, and then 190 cars sold on that same original lead batch from 6 months prior at over 180 days. 190. What that turned into and took them to a 19% or another 5% lift closing ratio on all leads based in that 1 month after long term. Now, what did they do? What's amazing is they found that the long-term follow-up needed to be much more relevant, it needed to be much more hands-on, and it needed to be away from what we like to call the internet email lovemaking. You guys know what that is. That's when you sit there and you send templates automatically about how great your store is. Hey, look at me, we're so wonderful, we've got the greatest CSI in the world, and you send irrelevant or things that don't necessarily matter, you're just trying to touch base with them. So here's our advice on what we found in this. Number 1, change your content. Add in more JPEG, more vehicles, more video. That's a no-brainer if you're going to do the email internet lovemaking. More importantly, get on the phone. Either outsource it or do it internally and make sure that you have relevant scripts in that long-term internet email follow-up. These people are taking a long time to purchase if they don't do it in the first 1 to 14 days. But what becomes difficult is making those phone calls month after month after month. If they average 13,000 leads a month as a group and you took this over 6 months, you could do the math. That's over 75,000 leads to be following up with by the time you got to 6 months. It's more than most people can handle. What ends up happening is you prejudge. You start saying, oh, that lead's no good. Let me concentrate on this one. You're trying to prioritize. You try to do things in the right manner, but people fall through the cracks. So look at that long-term aspect. It can be customized. You want to make sure it's relevant. You want to make sure that by the time you get further out, you're adding other incentives. And here's another freebie. Don't lose the incentive of the actual excitement of buying a car. It's not always about money, guys. It's about the excitement of buying a car, and we forget that being in the car business. And it's really hard to translate digitally or through the email. So you've got to do it over the phone. That means you've got to have passion. You've got to have that production. You've got to have it translate through your voice when you're on the phone with them, how exciting. Then send them a video of the vehicle that just came in that they were looking at. Get them reinvigorated. Get them on the phone. Make it relevant. If you look at that and you do that, you can see almost a 5% increase in the close ratio after your initial lead time, and that's with strong long-term outbound call follow-up. So make sure you put that in place and see if you can get that done. So,
excuse me, Bill. Bill, real fast.
Go ahead.
Go
ahead, Ileana.
We did have a question from Victor who wrote in, that is strong. What group is that? Now, I don't know if you can share that, but I just thought I would put Victor's question out there.
That is strong. I will not reveal the name. I will tell you it's top 5, and it begins with an A. That'll narrow it down for you. Good luck, Victor. I'm sure you're Columbo, and you will figure it out.
Okay. What do you got for us?
So, let's say the takeaways. Here we go. How do dealers maximize marketing ad budgets to tailor car shoppers? Look, focus on the fact that you know you've got the internet traffic coming, doing a great job with great websites such as Dealer On, increasing your web leads, doing your SEO, doing your SEM. But don't forget that when you look at your mobile shoppers, they're submitting more phone calls than they are internet leads according to a prominent digital survey out there. So don't forget the other avenues of where those leads are coming from. Gather more information, even outsource those inbound phone calls, whether it be service first, then sales. Get the opportunity out there so that you can do better follow-up. If you don't have the information to begin with, you're never going to be able to follow up in the long term. Make sure you have those effective short and long-term lead follow-up strategies. We looked at the database marketing in terms of what you could do right now inside of the store, whether it's heavy lifting, whether it's doing the power play script out of the service and grabbing those ROs, whether it's doing a multi-pronged approach on your campaigns when you do database through your CRM or a good outside company. Make sure it's always dual pronged. And of course, finally, if you don't have a BDC, you can create one instantaneously with your F&I people. And then of course, finally, create that customer-centric, that centers of excellence, maximize that customer lifetime value, go after that long-term internet follow-up. I know it's a big challenge, but make sure you don't get trapped into that internet email lovemaking or those automated workflows that go out there. They're easy, but the reality is they don't generate a whole lot. Get involved, get invigorated, get that excitement out there, translate it to the customer, get relevant content, get pictures, get video. Most importantly, get them on the phone or get somebody to get them on the phone for you. That's what I would leave you with there, Ileana. Now, hey, look at this. Ask the expert. Ileana, you're the expert, so I can't wait to hear your answers.
Oh, believe me, I am not the expert. But audience, if there is a question you are just itching to ask Bill Whitmire, well, now's a great time to send in your question. We are going to get those questions and pose them to Bill in just a minute. Before we do that, though, we have a little bit of business to take care of. So earlier on in the show, if you missed it, well, I announced that eLead One, our friends at eLead One, are giving away a fantastic prize today on the webinar. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to be winning a free 500-name Gold Digger Call Campaign. It's valued at $1,750. And this Gold Digger live call campaign blends best-in-class eLead virtual BDC with the industry's most advanced data mining technology to strategically target positive equity and early trade-out opportunities. So all you have to do, well, you got to answer a simple question about today's presentation. The first one to write in the correct response is going to win this awesome prize for your dealership. So I'm going to give you a second. Get to your keyboards. Fastest typer usually wins. So get ready, and good luck, everyone. Now, I know Bill threw out a lot of stats today, but I hope you heard this one. The question is, what is the sales opportunity percentage on a large-scale data mining campaign? What is the sales opportunity percentage on a large-scale data mining campaign? Well, I don't have a winner yet, so if you already tried to write in an answer, you might as well, try again, because I still don't have an answer yet. What is the sales opportunity percentage on a large-scale data mining campaign? Nope. Hey, Bill?
Yo.
I know that you gave me a range, So if somebody wrote in one of those numbers that's in your range, can we call them the winner?
I will take it as a winner.
Oh, all right. Okay, let me scroll back up here and let's see if anyone got it. Let's see. I know somebody got it because I saw it. Ooh, here we go. Our winner today with an answer of 7%. Monica Parker. The correct answer was 7 to 10%. Monica Parker, you are our winner today. Congratulations.
Good job, Monica.
Please write on in and let me know what dealership you're from and where you are so we can give you a proper shout out. Audience, thank you so much for playing along. We really appreciate it. Bill, while we're waiting for Monica to write on in, why don't you just expand on that a little bit? Because I was surprised at how many people did not get this question right. What is the sales opportunity percentage on a large-scale data mining campaign? So,
yeah, 7 to 10%. So what we see in using the right data, which is your own, and making sure that you tie that to what's important is current incentives. That's a really big one. When you create those campaigns, it's not just about going out and finding who's in equity or who's not in equity or lease in term. You've really got to refine those down. And good CRMs will do that, or database mining tools should provide that for you internally in the store. But the key is going to be tie that into your scripting and your hooks, or make sure your outbound source that you go to does that. And that's where you get the key. Finally, make sure that you have rebuttal on that, right? You should have at least one rebuttal. That's not necessarily pressure. That's just being good persistence in providing information. I should be able to go out, and if there's current incentives, say, on the F-150, I want to be able to tell them that, and then if they say, wow, geez, we still want to keep that F-150, I should be able to hit them with at least one more rebuttal of, hey, by the way, we also have some additional incentives on all 4 vehicles right now, some of which are up to $4,000. You don't necessarily tell them which vehicle. If you could make that make sense, make it fit your budget. Would it make sense to you? And then again, we know you should get 7 to 10% appointment ratio on that. And it should be a real appointment. Appointment is something that's set within the next 24 to 72 hours. If it's after that, it's not a hard appointment. They're not coming. Don't set it up that way. That means they put you off until the following week. So, and then don't forget, make sure you do a 2-prong, because you got at least 90% they're going to tell you that they love the vehicle. They bought it from you for a reason. They're going to keep it forever. Transition right into great. Most people tell us the exact same thing. No surprise. By the way, if you're going to keep it for a while, I'm sure you want to keep it well maintained. Am I right? Great. Let's set up a service appointment for you. We've got a free inspection today. Hey, and come in, get some of that great Starbucks coffee we had. By the way, even though it's really just Costco coffee, I just put a Starbucks.
No, you stop. He does not do that.
No dealers do that. No dealers do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, Monica Parker, congratulations. She did write back in. Monica is, she says, thanks so much. From Mountain View Nissan and Mountain View Chrysler Dodge Jeep. Monica, congratulations. You're going to be hearing from our friends at eLead One as soon as possible, and they'll set you up with that awesome Gold Digger campaign. And audience, if you have more questions for Bill, maybe something specific that you don't want to share with us here on the webinar, or I know a lot of you are writing in and asking for those scripts. Bill, you opened up a can of worms over here with those scripts.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it.
Well, I'll tell you what. His contact information is on the screen right now. It's Bill W. at eleadcrm.com. I can tell you honestly, he's one of the nicest guys in the auto industry. He's a peach. So please don't hesitate to reach out to him, and I promise you he'll do everything he can to help you out. All right. Bill, if you're ready, we're going to go to our first question. Actually, it's actually a comment. I'm going to start off with a comment. Is that all right?
Oh, that's tricky. You better not do that.
I think you can handle it. Okay, so D wrote in, buying online is sometimes a farce. No consumer can swipe their credit card and the car they bought lands in the driveway like Amazon. All auto retail transactions still require a handshake, but he goes on to say, auto retail future is not a robot. It's the optimization of the professional closest to the handshake. I love what he's saying here. I mean, seriously, if you could do the handshake, and you know what I'm talking about, if you could do the handshake and make it so personal through the online experience, more people would be buying cars online, wouldn't even come into the dealership. But since we can't do that, it's like we don't have smell-o-vision either. The trick is getting them into the dealership. It always has been. Wouldn't you agree, Bill?
I think that's a great comment. And look, there's a company out of Atlanta that has already started a full soup-to-nuts delivery where you can actually do all the negotiation online. You never go into a dealership, and then they ship the car to you, and then they give you 7 days to test drive the car, and you have the opportunity to ship it back. Now, look, I think that there's, in the future, and it's a very short-term future, we're going to see the evolution of more and more of the transaction happening online. I think the first dealership or group that gets to the point where they can do everything within an hour, and I mean appraisal online to negotiation, wrap up, that's where you're going to see somebody winning it. Especially when you do start talking about those millennials, and they think email is like snail mail, right? They think, they're all about texting, IM and messaging, etc. So it's going to be interesting as this business keeps transforming. I still think at the end of the day, the brick and mortar dealership is going to be a highly key integral part because it still boils down to the excitement, the emotional aspect of car buying. Let's face it, most of the majority percentage of people buying cars today are not buying out of need, they're buying out of want. If it ever gets to 100% need buy, you're going to see it done online. You'll never have a dealership again. But in this business, this is a want buy. Dealerships, cars last for 10, 20 years, 100, 200, 300,000 miles, no problem nowadays. The truth is customers still trade as much as they did 20 years ago when you could put your finger through some of the cars out there because they'd rust out in the first 2 years. So the reality is it's still a want purchase from the majority, and I think they really like that interaction. They want to get excited. They want to get bought in on the deal. I think a lot of the transactional piece is going to happen online, and I think that's a great comment that Dee came through with it. We're going to continue to shorten up that process to the handshake, and the first one that does that or does that the best is going to be a winner.
Agreed. Great comment from Dee. Let's get to a couple of these questions from Martin. Martin wrote in, what do you think is more efficient, having a centralized BDC answer all the sales calls for the dealership, or B, have the salesman answer the sales calls, or do you think it should be both?
Well, I don't think you can ever have both. When you have both, I read a book a few weeks ago, and the book had a great piece in it, and it said, look, multitasking is a lie. And I believe that. If you're ADD, we think multitasking is something that helps. The truth is multitasking is a lie. What it really means is you're going to do multiple things poorly instead of one thing great. You should always have one throat to choke. So separate it out. If you're going to do one, do one. Don't ever do a hybrid. Either put all the calls into the BDC or put all the calls into the salespeople. If you're going to use the salespeople, create a sales team that you can roll people in and out of. I'd take my top 10 or whatever your store size is, create the sales team that's allowed to take those inbound phone calls, and then take it to another level. Rotate the bottom 2 people off every month so everybody has an opportunity to join the team, stay on the team, and if you don't perform, you go off the team. Look, your insurance company, State Farm, Allstate, etc., you get charged something different from everybody else based upon your performance, your driving, your record, etc. There should be no difference in any other part of our business when it comes to that. It's okay to roll people off and not be winners. If they're not doing a good job of it, let's find somewhere else to go. So if you choose to put it in the sales team, create a sales team, roll the bottom 2 off each month, rolling 2 new people on so that they have an opportunity, and you can find out where the best people are.
I love it. Okay, Martin, I hope that helped you out. Martin actually has another question we'll be getting to in just a moment. Let's get back to Chip. He says, I don't exactly remember when he wrote this in, but he says they only handle inbound and outbound calls. Who handles the internet leads?
Yeah, I guess it depends on who you're referring to or what. Look, if you outsource the inbound or the outbound, or you have a BDC that's handling the inbound and the outbound, again, I look at things where you have to have one throat to choke. If you're going to have somebody or a group of people take care of inbound internet leads, then that's what they should do, and they should handle them from soup to nuts. There should be no handoff. In fact, I would challenge your thinking, and I would say, I know this is going to go against some people on the call. I'm going to apologize up front. The reality is there should be no internet department. I have no idea why we have an internet department inside of dealerships. Well, listen, Ileana, 20 years ago when I started in the car business, there wasn't the sales point department, the designated people that went and stood outside waiting on the lot ups when there was no internet, right? The whole dealership should be an internet department. We should have the ability to do a Shark Tank. First one that gets it and responds to it wins, and then they're held accountable for that long term. The reality is most managers don't want to take that time and don't want to take that ability with a large group to follow up and manage it. So hence the fact that we form an internet department. But truly, the entire dealership is an internet department. We looked at earlier where we know 79, 80% of all the people in the car buying process go online at some point, and we really know it's closer to 100%. The truth is they're all internet buyers. So I would say, look, the entire dealership's an internet department. Handle it soup to nuts. But if you don't do that, then make sure that you're handling it at least in the internet department from that beginning, from cradle to grave, taking the inbound call, outbound call, and all the internet leads on that piece.
Okay, wait. Before we go any further, I got to get you to expand on this. So what you're saying is it doesn't matter where the lead comes from. As long as the lead comes into the dealership, it should be handled the same kind of way.
I absolutely. These are the same customers. There's no difference in this. They're just coming from a different part of the lead generation area, but they're all the same people. Look, I hear people all the time still talking about how they don't give out price and they try to get the information and this and that. Look, the key to this deal, regardless of where somebody comes in from, whether it's an internet lead that comes from your organic website or something you generated, or it's a phone call, or it's a showroom up, they all want the same thing. They want information. They want it easy. They want it quickly, and they want it in a clear and concise manner. So if you're taking the internet leads, don't be afraid to give them that information. Don't be afraid to give it to them up front. Don't be afraid to give them pricing. The reality is they can shop you while they're sitting on the showroom floor on their smartphones and get 5 prices while they're waiting on you to go check on the manager or to get back and to give them different options. And here's the other thing. If it's hard to get information via email or via phone call and the customer's on the other end, this is what they're thinking. They're thinking to themselves, man, if it's this hard to get stuff now, how hard is it going to be when I get there? Because it's still a very intimidating process for most people walking into a dealership. So I say, yeah, absolutely. Make sure you get the information to them, get it to them quickly, handle it from cradle to grave. It should be one seamless process. I think ideally, and again, F&I managers are going to hate me. I'm an ex-F&I guy, and you know what that stands for, which is friggin' idiot, so I am one. But anyway, just kidding. The reality is, I think that the tenure and that position of F&I manager is going to be gone in the next 3 to 5 years, because where we're going to go is we're going to have the opportunity to do all this with one person. You're not going to get transitioned over to F&I. You're not going to get transitioned over to a manager. You're not going to get. I think ultimately, to Dee's point earlier, as we shorten this process, that also means shortening the number of people that are involved in the process. So I was really long-winded to say, yes, Ileana, one place, one person, do it all, rock and roll, should be everybody in the store.
Okay, so it generated a lot of comments from our audience, which I definitely...
Oh, I bet.
Oh, I bet.
F&I piece? The F&I piece one?
No, the whole idea of getting rid of the internet department. But for instance, Dee did write back in and said, take a poll of what percentage of a dealership's employees have a digital presence of their own, email, social media, YouTube, etc. They're all on the internet, and they're all your employees. So put that power to work for your dealership. Gigi wrote in, our BDC takes all inbound, outbound. We do the long-term follow-up on all of our clients, including the internet leads. But then you got somebody like Michael, who writes in, I do not agree with an entire store handling internet leads if the dealership receives a lot of internet leads and also a lot of floor traffic. And, I mean, come on, let's be honest. Don't you think some people are better suited to handling internet leads than they are to handling a live person in front of them?
Look, I'm a controversial guy, and I like to do a lot of different things. And look, and first of all, everybody's store is individual, and everybody operates, and whatever works for that culture, right? Now, I will tell you that there's certainly a lot of things that would support both sides of the argument. If you have a lot of floor traffic, if you have a lot of internet leads, and having that separated and going against, my theory, which is the whole dealership is an internet department. But I would offer this as the flip side to that thought process. Back in the day, people grabbed people who thought were, technically oriented, who could write an email, who could do this, who were specialized in the internet department. Look, man, that's a bunch of crap. Everybody's a salesperson. If you're a good salesperson, I can teach you how to write an email. I can teach you how to put a template together. I can teach you what to do and when to do it. If you're a good salesperson, all you're doing is changing the format of how you're conveying that sales technology and that sales technique. So no, I don't think that there's anybody that's specialized one way or another. It's all about finding the specialized salesperson. If you're a good salesperson, I can put you in any environment. You will be able to adapt and you'll be able to form and make that communication happen. If you take a great salesperson, put them into the internet side, they're going to be able to communicate and make that happen. Vice versa, you may take somebody who's really great from a quote-unquote technological standpoint, who can come up with the greatest templates in the world, but then you put them face-to-face with somebody, and they might suck the life out of them like an energy vampire and give them way too much info on the details of the car. So it's all about putting the sale back into the conversation and taking the conversation out of the sale, and I think it's just about being a good salesperson, Ileana. So find the specialist of a salesperson. They'll fit anywhere inside the dealership, managed and coached and counseled properly.
For some reason while you were talking, it kind of reminded me of the very end of The Wolf of Wall Street. Did you see that movie?
I did.
You did? Okay, so at the very end, he's in a room full of people, and he's going to teach them how to sell, and he keeps going from one person to the next saying, sell me this pen. Sell me this pen. And I feel like if you're a good salesperson, you could sell anything. It doesn't have to be a car. You could sell anything to, anyone, really.
Look, the secret is being a good consultant, and good salespeople are good consultants. And if you're a good consultant, you can convey that via the internet, email, template, phone call, any of those things, and eventually drive that customer into that trust, that like, and eventually spending money with you. And that's really what it boils down to. Yes, are there people that are better than others and we technically put them into specialist positions? Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, there are people that are better on the phone than they are face-to-face. And is that true in the internet? Sure, I think there are a few. But I think the reality is it really boils down to finding good salespeople, developing good salespeople, and then coaching and counseling good salespeople. That's a whole different webinar, but there's a lot of different ways you can go on that.
I love it. I love it. And a lot of people commented that they love the movie. Thank you. We got Mark who commented, people buy from people. Totally agree. The trust and the product knowledge has to be there. And Dee wrote in, it's exactly the way to get closest to the handshake. The entire dealership now has to be the internet department. Okay, so our next comment actually did come from Dee, and he wanted to know, how receptive are F&I managers to the idea of handling the BDC duties in your experience?
They're going to run. Hey, if you lived in the South at any time, you can't avoid having roaches somewhere around there. And I'm not calling F&I guys roaches, but what will end up happening is it's like turning on the lights. They're going to scatter everywhere, man. They hate it. They don't even want, you're going to have to set this up the right way. But the reality is there's a huge opportunity there. I do believe that the strongest closers, they have a lot of time on their hands. They're great on the phone. And again, the business manager moniker, if I get a customer on the phone on a database mining, they're not getting that at any other dealership. There's no experience. And look, this is a great way to set up the F&I deal all to begin with. I'd go to the F&I manager and I'd pitch them this way. Look, here's the great part about this. All you've been doing is bitching to me about how we don't give you enough leg and we don't have the deal set up for F&I. You can set the whole deal up. Now you could go in and have all the leg and the whole F&I set up before the customer gets here and let them go from that approach. I think that gives you a good opportunity. It gives them an opportunity to make the deal maximized, so there's a benefit in it for them as well.
Great comments, Bill. And I want to remind the audience, I know a lot of people are writing in and asking me for Bill's scripts. I promise you, I don't have them, but Bill does.
Ileana, don't lie. You have them. I just send them to you.
No, you didn't. So listen, when you get a chance, go email billw@eleadcrm.com, and I promise I'll get them out to you as quickly as possible.
Promise. We will get them out to you. Happy to do it free of charge.
Thank you. Okay, it's still generating a lot of comments. So for instance, Dee wrote back in, if you have a lot of floor traffic, then your store apparently is doing what is necessary already to leverage marketing properly. And most dealerships don't have this advantage as the rule. Gigi, on the other hand, says, we do have an internet sales team, but we do all the contact with the people inquiring online, and we drive them into the store. And most of our business comes from the BDC department and not from walk-ins. Gigi, you have some special setup over there, let me tell you. But let's get to this next question because I love the comments the audience is writing in. Jeff needs your advice, Bill. Jeff is asking for advice on how dealers should avoid or adopt/adapt to the various pricing tools available to customers. Where is the industry headed with these tools? And before you answer that, this one also kind of goes with Stephen's question. So Jeff asked that question, but Stephen's asking, if you give out all the information the customer wants, how do you handle being shopped over the phone by the customer? You know, I mean, so it has to do with all these pricing tools, and people are looking for the best deal. Hey, the economy stinks for everyone except for what, the top 3% of the population, you know?
How would you?
That's me, that's you, that's all of us here on this call, right? Otherwise we wouldn't be working. So the economy stinks, and if somebody can save, you know, $1,000, $500, heck, if somebody could save $100 or even $50 or just walk away with the feeling that they're getting a good deal, they're going to do it because they got to put food on the table too, but they still need that car or want that car, whatever their reason is. So how do you avoid being shopped or getting taken advantage of by all these pricing tools out there that are in our areas? Do you have any advice for our dealers?
Yeah, let me give you some feedback on that, right? And let's remember that it's worth what you paid for it, which is zero. And I'm going to back this up because you asked a couple of questions, and I'm going to go from the back to the front. So, you know, when you look at, you know, how you stay away from them being, you know, taking advantage of you, shopping you on the phone, et cetera. Look, the reality is they're shopping you already, man. They're already out there. They're already making the dials. They're already going online, and they're already going all these tools. Whether you give them the price or not, they're doing the shopping already. They've got more information at their fingertips today than ever before. And the truth is, it's the only business in the world where they're going to be able to go on and expect to pay less than what you paid for the car. And some dealer's going to do it for them, and they've been rewarded. So the truth is, they're shopping you already. Those customers are out there. If you focus on those customers, you'll get them, and you'll have low gross. You'll be upset. You'll have low CSI. I want everybody, don't get me wrong, but the truth is there are some deals you should pass on, and some of those customers are going to be there, but they're already shopping you anyway. I think it then boils down to that relationship and that consultation. There's a lot of places for me to go get anything, and I usually go to the place where I have a relationship and built up with that person. I feel some type of commonality. It goes back to those basics, establish that common ground, establish that trust. And look, I know there's 10% of the people out there, they don't care, right? They're exactly what you were talking about, Ileana. They'd save $5. The ICP, I'll give you an example. I drive by a Costco gas station here in Southern California.
Yeah.
There's a line. The line to get into this Costco gas station, it must be 40 minutes to sit there to get in line for that thing. Every day I go by, and I think to myself, to save 20 cents on gas, let me do the math on this. That's $2 on 10 gallons. That's $4 on 20 gallons. I'm not wasting 40 minutes of my time for $4. It ain't happening.
But people don't see that. All they see is that it's cheaper than the guy down the street.
There is a percentage of people that see that. And if you want to cater to those people, they will always be there. Make that decision on your own, whether you're going to accept the person that'll come in and grind you. And remember, they're going to give you the lowest CSI, and they're not going to send you any referrals either. That's completely a decision inside the dealership. Look, do we take those deals every now and then? I think everybody does. Do you make it your generality? If you do, you'll see more of them. They're always going to be there. That's a smaller percentage. It's probably 10 to 15%. Concentrate on the middle of that bell graph, the people that are going to be swayed more by consultation, trust, availability of the vehicle, and using good sales tactics along it. And I just don't, in terms of the pricing tools, look, the pricing tools have always been out there. When I started in 1991, you could walk through the grocery aisle at Piggly Wiggly in Savannah, Georgia, and you could pick up a consumer price guide on vehicles at checkout. I mean, you could look at the invoice of the vehicle then. There's no difference between today and 20 years ago, except for the fact that now I can do it on my smartphone. It's more readily available. And the truth is, I think some of these pricing tools out there actually help because they actually produce gross in there versus just going to the reality of a customer walking in and saying, hey, I'm going to pay you invoice. So, look, I think those tools are going to continue to be out there. I think the better job we do as dealerships in building that value on that vehicle, the higher that average price ends up getting, and it'll just help us. I don't think it'll hurt us. At the end of the day, present them all. You'll find 6 or 7 different prices on there, or use that the same with their trade. Hey, are we going to use the same parameters on your trade vehicle as well? And then obviously that's an opportunity there. So, it's still all about building the value of the vehicle. There is no magic fairy dust that'll make them come in and pay retail on every vehicle. I think you just acknowledge it. I think you move on. I think you use those to your advantage. And again, be the one that's willing to share that stuff. And I think people appreciate that. Save them time. Time is the most valuable asset we have. You can't go buy any more of it. You can't go find any more of it. You can't sell any more of it. If you save them time, you get the information to them quickly, you acknowledge that it's out there, and you do a great job at building value, I think you'll see your prices increase, your gross increase, and if you convey that to the customers, it'll be there.
Well, thank you so much. Okay, so I was reminded of a story real quick. We were running out of gas. We were riding on fumes, as they say, me and my husband. And I wanted to go to this one gas station where I know the gas is cheaper. And my husband was the one who said, no, we're getting gas now at this one. And I said, no, it's cheaper down the street. And he said, I'm not going to take the chance and save, 80 cents? So thank you so much for pointing that out. Until he said that, I was like, you're right, it is only 80 cents. All right, so here we go. All right, let's get this question from Martin. Martin says, should phone calls be counted as an internet lead?
So phone calls, should they be counted as an internet lead? That's a great question. I think it's very difficult to track that from a standpoint of, unless you have specific numbers, obviously, on your website. I mean, you can do some of that tracking, but then again, some stuff comes directly from trunk numbers at work, which is going to be 30 or 40%. My answer is this: no, I don't think it should be. I think a pure internet lead is an internet lead that comes digitally. A phone call is a phone call. I think ultimately we can always attribute the fact that phone calls are coming from our marketing aspect in some form or another. Can you disseminate that down even further and say it's a phone call from our internet generation? Yes, but I think ultimately you should still track each source individually as its own source, maybe with subsets underneath. A phone call is a phone call, an internet lead's an internet lead.
There you go. Okay. I love this comment that Chip made. Chip wrote and he says, we're moving our dealership from digital marketing to digital retailing. And it's funny how, Bill, you mentioned earlier how, still dealerships are brick and mortar. But I love the idea of dealerships who are really focusing on their click and mortar business, because there is money to be made over the internet. And then once those leads come in, of course, according to you, they should be treated like any other lead. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then Mark disagrees with you. He says he's been in the business since 1982. He was with MB, I'm going to assume that's Mercedes-Benz, when the internet started in our industry. And I do believe at our retail center that we need specific advisors to handle the internet leads. So there's one dissenting voice in there. He's not the only one. I think you definitely I think you probably split the audience 50-50 on that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Look, it probably depends on what position you are inside the store as well, right? I mean, you're obviously going to be a little bit jaded if you're in the internet because you're not going to want to give up your fiefdom. And the reality is, I mean, no, I'm just to be honest, and I appreciate that. I want that feedback. And look, as I mentioned earlier, it's what works in your store. I mean, God love them. 30 years plus in the car business, they should build a statue for him at this point for surviving that long.
Yeah,
So,
I know. Does he get a gold watch?
I mean, you got to give him the respect out of that. He's got 10 years on me in the car business, and I'm old, and I don't give crap. So, here's what I would tell you. I think it works for whatever works inside your store and the people that you have in your store, right? I mean, most dealerships do not have the benefit of a 30-year-old veteran in the car business. They've either retired out, they've made it to a high management position where they don't care and they can't hurt anybody anymore, or they've gone on to another job because this is a tough deal. So, that's an advantage. That makes it a special store. Most stores have guys that they're rotating a third of their people in and out of there every month. And that's where you have to have, across the board, get people in the deal. So, I mean, it really depends on, how your store is, how your culture is, and what works for you is what's going to work, right? I mean, that's at the end of the day the most important thing. And a lot of that's based on the talent or lack of talent you may or may not have across the dealership, or the coaching and counseling that you may or may not do inside the store. And again, to his point, look, man, you got 30 years in the business. God love you. You get all the respect in the world, as you should. Most dealerships just don't have that type of experience laying around, nor do they have that type of leadership quality there. So, if you have that, then great. You're going to make it work.
Well, thank you. So, Mark, I love hearing your comments. Thank you so much. We got another great comment from Gigi. It says, we're up to date with social media, digital marketing, etc., but the best part still for us is in BDC is bringing them in the door, having them work with their product specialists and giving them that VIP buying experience that you cannot get sitting and trying to purchase in front of a computer. Gigi, you go, girl. Okay, I do want to get to our last question from JR. JR, is that really your last name? JR asks, what is the value of using your call center versus having in-house coordinators?
Look, I think the value is this. I love in-house coordinators. I like the hybrid approach, to be frank with you. But I think the value when you look at an outsourced call center, whether it be ours or somebody else's, is the fact that you get the heavy lifting. If you looked at that example earlier in that large dealer group, and the 476 dials a day, 7 days a week, every holiday, I mean, you're just not going to get that inside of the store. And you're not going to have the technology. You're not going to have a predictive dialer that's going to allow you to do multiple phone calls to different numbers at specific times during the day using that big data where you're going to get the better connectivity rate. There's just only so many dials you can do. And look, at making phone calls one after another, that's a hard job, man. So it's hard to do that day in and day out. So I think the advantage becomes you get the heavy lifting, you get the ability to have somebody else doing it for you up to 7 days a week with no vacation, no HR issues, no training opportunities. And look, when you have your BDCs, your CDCs, whatever we want to call them, typically there's somebody really good in there that makes it or makes that backbone. And if you lose that person, sometimes you lose the whole initiative out of the BDC or the CDC. So you don't have that issue either. So I think the best part is using all the advantages of that large scalability or that first to market where you could beat people to the punch, being fast, flexible, friendly, and fun, and then adding in the hybrid where you still have the coordinators at the store level. You pass that information directly back to them where you could do that hand-holding, that VIP experience, that personal touch from the store level. I think that's where you really maximize the two.
JR, great question. And Bill, thank you so much. One last comment coming in from D. He says, back to B-dub for me. This dude is a stud. And with that, I'm going to close out the webinar.
Yeah, he's lying. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Great, great webinar. I want to remind the audience that a link to download the recording for this webinar is going to be sent to you later today for your reference. Please feel free to share it with friends and colleagues. The webinar will also be posted online within 24 hours. Just go to dealeron.com/webinars, and you can click on the link on the right-hand side for on-demand webinars. And you can access any of our past webinars. You can also view and register for any of our upcoming webinars too. Also, at the conclusion of this webinar, in just a moment, you're going to receive a short survey. Please fill it out because we're always looking for great feedback from our audience, and let us know what you thought of Bill's presentation. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What was the wording you used earlier, Bill?
Energy vampire, oxygen thief.
Well, if you thought that, you can tell us about it in the survey. We're going to randomly select a couple of people from all the completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. You don't want to miss that. And I want to let you know, DealerOn's going to be at the upcoming Digital Dealer 16 in Atlantic City, May 6th through the 8th. You got to stop by booth 623. I'm going to be there. I'd love to say hi to you. And while you're there, take the opportunity to check out the new responsive website platform, Chameleon. It hasn't even launched yet, but it's going to launch in like tomorrow or something. But you're going to see what the future of dealer websites is going to look like. You're going to learn why Google recommends that your dealership's website be built on a responsive platform, and you can check out the sexiest darn dealer websites you have ever seen. So you don't want to miss that. Come see us at Digital Dealer, booth 623. Check out the future of dealership websites. We also got some great speaking sessions from some of my cohorts, and we're also offering a discount. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, use that discount code that's on your screen.
Sorry.
That's okay. Use the discount code on your screen, and you can still get the early bird price, even though it has already expired. So you don't want to miss that if you can help it. And hopefully, I'll get to see you in Atlantic City. And yeah, invitations are going to be going out for tomorrow for next week's webinar. It's a good one, too. How to kick your social media into high gear with none other than Kate Frost. It's been long said that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it makes sense. After all, science has now shown that 90% of all information submitted to the brain is visual. So using this philosophy, you'll learn how a picture can also be worth 1,000 likes, social shares, and traffic to your website. Sound too good to be true? Well, social media expert Kate Frost is going to show you how to kick your social media into high gear. In this provocative one-hour webinar, you're going to learn about visual social marketing and how to use pictures to increase engagement. Kate's also going to discuss why and how to break through the online noise and clutter and grab some more attention for your dealership. She'll then demonstrate how to properly use visuals on social media marketing and your website to quickly enhance your brand, drive engagement, and generate more leads. This is a must-see presentation for any dealership struggling with social media or looking to take their online presence to the next level. Fast and furious. Seeing is believing. So register for this webinar and see for yourself. It's going to be another fabulous presentation by your friends at DealerOn. And don't forget, DealerOn's weekly webinars are held every Thursday, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And we have some amazing webinar subjects planned for this year. But if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions regarding these webinars and our topics, hey, contact me directly. I love hearing from you. Again, my name is Eliana Raggio. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+. I'm on all the automotive social networks, too. Or you can track me down online or email me directly at eliana@dealeron.com. Thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today, and I hope to see you all on a future webinar in our continuing education series. Take care.